Freedom isn't sunshine and soft pillows. Freedom is a punch in the face from reality every morning you open your eyes. Freedom is pain, pressure, and loneliness wrapped together in one brutal package. The world lies to you and says freedom means relaxation, holidays, comfort, and doing what you want. That's bullshit. Freedom feels like standing alone while the entire world pushes against you. When you stop living like a slave, you stop having anyone to blame. And that responsibility hurts. Most men don't want freedom. They want a fucking fantasy. They want a life where they feel important without earning importance, where they feel strong without paying the price of strength. Freedom demands pain, accountability, and sacrifice. Three things weak men run from like cowards. The truth is simple. If freedom doesn't hurt, it isn't freedom. It's just another cage dressed up in comfort. The system understands men better than men understand themselves. That's why it doesn't use chains anymore. It uses comfort. Comfort is the drug that destroys ambition. Comfort is the slow poison that kills every spark inside a man and convinces him he's at peace. It's all bullshit. The system doesn't want fighters. It wants men sedated. That's why everything is designed to feel good. Food, entertainment, porn, apps, it's all engineered to keep you numb so you don't notice your fucking life slipping away. You think you're choosing rest, but you're choosing weakness. You think you're choosing balance, but you're choosing surrender. Comfort sells because it makes weakness feel justified. But comfort is the enemy of every man who wants to be free. You can't escape the matrix while you're cuddled by it. I remember being broke in London, freezing in a shitty room where the heater barely worked, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., thinking, is this it? Is this my whole fucking life? No friends helping, no safety net, no one giving a shit about me. That pain, that cold, that hunger, it was my teacher. Pain sharpened me in ways comfort never could. While everyone else chased warmth, I chased war with my own weakness. That's the moment everything changed. Pain forced me to grow. Pain forced me to think. Pain forced me to evolve. Every man who rises pays in suffering first. Pain is the doorway. Pain is the fucking curriculum. Pain is the initiation into power. Any man who tries to avoid pain avoids freedom. It's that fucking simple. Well, freedom isolates you at the beginning. When you stop living like everyone else, you stop speaking their language. People don't like men who take control. They feel threatened. They want you to stay average so they feel comfortable staying average too. When I stopped partying, stopped wasting time, stopped bullshitting myself, I lost almost everyone around me. They said I had changed. No shit. I changed because staying the same was killing me. They wanted the old version of me, the weak version they could relate to. But growth feels like betrayal to people who refuse to grow. That loneliness isn't punishment. It's proof you're evolving. If you're not losing people, you're not gaining power. Freedom forces you to face yourself without excuses. And facing yourself is fucking painful. When you take away distractions, lies, and bullshit, you realize how many times you chose comfort over courage, softness over strength. Most men can't handle that level of honesty. They'd rather drown in excuses than choke on the truth. But you can't build a powerful life while lying to yourself. Freedom demands brutal self-auditing. Where are you weak? Where are you lazy? Where are you full of shit? Until you strip away the bullshit, you'll stay trapped in cycles you pretend you didn't choose. Painful truth is the birth of freedom. Comfortable lies are the birth of slavery. Pain repeated enough times becomes discipline. And discipline, repeated enough times, becomes identity. That's how warriors are created. Not from motivation videos or positive thinking bullshit, but from waking up every day and doing the hard thing because weakness disgusts you. When I fought professionally, the physical pain wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was the pressure. The knowledge that if I hesitated, if I got soft, if I lost focus, someone would fucking hurt me. That psychological weight forged me into steel. Pain became a tool. Pain became a compass. Pain became proof that I was still in the fight. Men who embrace pain rise. Men who avoid pain rot. People only see the highlight reel. The cars, the travel, the money, the lifestyle. They don't see the pressure that comes with freedom. They don't see the nights where you can't sleep because everything depends on your decisions. They don't see the moments where you're alone with your thoughts, carrying a level of responsibility most men would collapse under. Freedom isn't the absence of pressure. Our freedom is being responsible for the pressure. It's understanding that every choice, every mistake, every miscalculation is on you. And that responsibility is painful. So painful that most men would rather stay slaves. A slave has no pressure. A free man carries the world. The system doesn't fear strong bodies. It fears strong minds. A man willing to endure discomfort is uncontrollable. You can't bribe him with comfort. You can't break him with stress. You can't program him with shame. That's why society tries to make men fear pain. Because the moment you stop fearing pain, you stop needing the system. A man who can sit in silence, who can choose the hard path, who can take hits without crying. He becomes untouchable. The system can't handle men who think like that. Because disciplined men become unpredictable. Unpredictable men become powerful. Us and powerful men break the fucking matrix. The truth is, freedom is earned, not claimed. You earn it through early mornings, cold showers, brutal training sessions, lonely nights, uncomfortable conversations, hard decisions, and relentless discipline that nobody claps for. You earn it by refusing shortcuts. You earn it by choosing the harder option every time your weakness whispers the easy one. You earn it by fighting your own mind every day. Freedom has a price, and that price is pain. That's why so few men have it. They want the result, but not the suffering. They want the crown, but not the wounds. Freedom belongs only to the men who bleed for it. You become dangerous when you stop negotiating with discomfort. Imagine the power of a man who does not need permission, validation, or comfort. A man who does what must be done, whether he feels like it or not. A man who knows pain won't kill him, but weakness will. That man is free. Not because life is easy, but because he is unbreakable. Every version of me that leveled up came from suffering first. Cold rooms, empty bank accounts, betrayals, overtraining, pressure, criticism. Pain wasn't the obstacle. It was the fucking path. And the day I embraced that fully was the day the world stopped controlling me. Freedom is pain. It always has been. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is the sculptor. Pain carves the man you were meant to become. Weak men avoid pain and lose their edge. Strong men embrace pain and sharpen their destiny. This is why freedom is rare. This is why power is rare. This is why most men live and die without ever meeting their true potential. Because the truth is brutal. Freedom hurts more than slavery. But that pain is the price of power. And the only men who rise are the ones who are willing to pay it. Most men don't fear pain. They fear responsibility. Because responsibility exposes who you really are. Pain is simple. You feel it, you react, you adapt. But responsibility? Responsibility is a mirror. It shows you every lie you've told yourself, every opportunity you pissed away, every cowardly moment where you picked comfort instead of courage. The truth is, men aren't running from difficulty. They're running from accountability. They don't want to admit they wasted years, energy, and potential on bullshit. They don't want to admit every comfort they indulged in built the walls of their own prison. So they avoid responsibility like a drug addict avoids sobriety. Because sobriety shows the mess. That's why society keeps men busy with distractions. The system knows the moment a man becomes responsible, he becomes uncontrollable. Responsibility is the first step toward freedom, and freedom is the last thing the Matrix wants you to taste. Responsibility is heavy. It's supposed to be. That's why weak men reject it. They want the illusion of freedom without the weight of consequences. They want the life of a king with the discipline of a child. They want respect without sacrifice, money without grind, success without scars. That's why they cling to jobs, routines, and authority. Because it allows them to outsource their failures. If something goes wrong, they can blame a boss, an economy, a politician, a parent, a friend, anyone but themselves. But once you choose freedom, that bullshit disappears. If you fail, it's your fault. If you win, it's your responsibility. If your life is shit, it's because you designed it that way. That level of truth crushes weak men. They'd rather stay dependent forever than face the reality that the life they hate is the life they built. When I was broke, I realized something that changed me forever. No one was coming. No cavalry, no mentor, no miracle. The world didn't care if I sank or survived. That realization hurt. It felt like swallowing a grenade. But that pain woke me up. I understood that if I didn't take full responsibility for every inch of my future, I was going to end up like every other broke, bitter man blaming the universe for the choices he made. I refused that destiny. I decided that every success and failure from that moment forward would be on me. And that responsibility became fuel. Real men don't run from the weight. They lift it. Weak men break under pressure. Strong men are forged by it. I chose to be forged. That decision separated me from 99% of the world. Responsibility is terrifying because it eliminates excuses. And excuses are comfort food for the weak. Excuses let them sleep at night without confronting their wasted potential. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm unlucky. All lies. All bullshit. If you want to see a weak man panic, remove his excuses. Make him admit his failures were choices. Watch how fast his identity collapses. The system pumps excuses into society like oxygen. They keep men compliant. They keep them soft. They keep them blaming everything except themselves. But when you strip all that away, you realize every man is exactly where he deserves to be. If you're broke, you made decisions that led there. If you're weak, you trained yourself to be weak. If you're lost, you ignored every moment life asked you to grow. Responsibility doesn't lie. It shows the truth with no filter. The system hates responsible men because responsible men stop obeying. When you take full ownership, you stop expecting the world to fix your problems. You fix them yourself. That makes you dangerous. You stop being a consumer and start being a creator. You stop being a follower and start being a leader. You stop being predictable. Predictable men are easy to manipulate. Responsible men are impossible to control because they don't need permission, approval, or guidance. They don't need someone to clap for them. They don't need someone to validate their struggle. They just execute. That terrifies the system. A responsible man becomes self-made, and self-made men disrupt the entire hierarchy. Weak men think responsibility is suffering. Strong men understand responsibility is power. When you take responsibility for everything in your life, even things that weren't your fault, you gain control. You can change direction, build strategy, and alter your destiny. You stop reacting and start dictating. Most men never taste that level of control. They're too busy complaining. Complaints are the anthem of the powerless. Responsibility is the anthem of the kings. I learned early that the world bends for men who accept accountability and punishes men who run from it. Responsibility gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. No direction gives you momentum. And momentum builds empires. Every great man in history started by shouldering a burden other men avoided. I remember getting banned worldwide. They tried to erase me from the digital universe. They threw everything at me. Smear pieces, hit jobs, coordinated narratives. Most men would have folded. Most men would have cried about fairness. But fairness is for the weak. I didn't collapse because my success was built on responsibility, not public approval. When you know that every victory in your life came from your own discipline, you're untouchable. The Matrix can attack reputation, platforms, and perception. But it can't attack your character when you built that character through self-made pressure. Responsibility creates armor. Weak men rely on comfort. Strong men rely on discipline. When you rely on discipline, nothing external can break you. Responsibility exposes your relationship with fear. Men who fear responsibility fear themselves. They're terrified of confronting the darkness inside. The laziness, the insecurity, the weakness. They avoid responsibility because it forces them to see that they aren't kings inside their mind. They're frightened children pretending to be men. Responsibility demands you outgrow that version of yourself. It demands you evolve. You can't hide behind excuses. You can't hide behind society's expectations. You can't hide behind comfort. You must face yourself in the rawest, most honest way possible. And that confrontation is painful. But that pain builds the foundation of strength. And that strength builds freedom. A man without responsibility is a man without identity. He doesn't know who he is because he never had to be anything. He never chose a mission. He never chose a path. He never faced the weight of leading himself. So he drifts. He wanders through life absorbing opinions, echoing trends, following crowds. He becomes a puppet with no strings visible. Responsibility is the defining moment where a man becomes real. When you take responsibility, you stop drifting. You decide, this is who I am. This is what I demand. This is what I refuse. That certainty terrifies the weak because it exposes how little direction they have in life. But certainty is how warriors are born. Responsibility isn't glamorous. It's not motivational. It's brutal. It's messy. It's unromantic. But it's the only path to becoming a man worth respecting. You don't build character by avoiding the hard things. You build character by attacking them. You build character by carrying burdens other men drop. You build character by refusing to let circumstances dictate your destiny. The world respects men who take responsibility because responsibility creates consistency. And consistency creates power. You cannot be powerful if you crumble under pressure. You cannot be respected if your excuses are louder than your results. And you cannot be free if you avoid the pain that builds strength. Responsibility forces you to grow faster than the average man. The moment you take ownership of everything in your life, you start seeing solutions instead of problems. You start generating opportunities instead of waiting for them. You start thinking 10 steps ahead while the average man thinks only about surviving the next day. All freedom requires strategy, and strategy requires responsibility. Weak men think responsibility limits freedom. Strong men know responsibility is the engine of freedom. Responsibility sharpens your mind, hardens your spirit, and gives your actions weight. It turns your life into a mission instead of a fucking accident. Responsibility makes you dangerous because it disconnects you from fear. Nothing scares a man who already blames himself for everything. If he fails, it's on him. If he suffers, it's on him. If he loses, it's on him. And if he wins, he owns it entirely. That's the mindset of a warrior. You become immune to manipulation because no one can guilt trip a man who already takes full accountability. You become immune to panic because you understand control lives in your decisions, not circumstances. Responsibility is the foundation of emotional power. Without responsibility, you'll always be a puppet. With responsibility, you become the puppeteer. Responsibility is the dividing line between boys and men. Boys avoid pain. Men absorb it. Boys seek approval. Men generate results. Boys wait for direction. Men produce direction. The sooner you embrace responsibility, the sooner you evolve into the version of yourself you were meant to be. Most men never get there. They stay trapped in adolescence disguised as adulthood. They live in comfort, speak in excuses, drown in distractions, and die quietly with regrets they never admit. That won't be you. Not if you decide right now that responsibility is your new religion. The weight of freedom is heavy, but only men built for greatness choose to carry it. Power isn't some shiny trophy. Power is weight. Power is pressure. Power is waking up every day knowing there's no safety net under you anymore. Weak men think power is freedom. It isn't. It's obligation. It's responsibility. It's the pressure of knowing every decision you make echoes through your future, your fear, money, your family, your legacy. Power forces you to grow up fast. It forces you to stop hiding. It forces you to accept that nobody's coming to rescue you when things go wrong. That's the truth weak men can't handle. They chase comfort because comfort removes pressure. Power increases it. Power demands that you rise, not relax. And that's why the system doesn't want men to taste power. Because the moment a man understands pressure, he becomes unfuckable with. He becomes someone who doesn't fold, doesn't beg, and doesn't obey. Pressure is what separates real men from pretenders. The moment you raise your standards, the world pushes back. Suddenly, you're responsible for every weakness you ignored. Suddenly, you're responsible for every promise you made to yourself. Suddenly, there's no room for bullshit, no room for excuses, no room for softness. Power exposes you. It shows whether your discipline is real or performative, whether your confidence is earned or just noise. Most men crack the first time life pushes them. They crumble under expectations. They panic at discomfort. They run back to comfort because pressure hurts. But the truth is this: nothing grows without pressure. Diamonds are pressure. Muscles are pressure. Leadership is pressure. If you want power, you have to learn to breathe inside the fire instead of running from it. When I was younger, I thought strength was just physical. I thought power came from fighting, lifting, dominating. But the real power came later, when life threw pressure I didn't expect. When bills were due and I didn't have the money. When I was hungry and ambition was the only fuel left. When I lost fights I thought I'd win. When people I trusted turned on me. When the world decided to attack my name. That pressure forced me to evolve. Every time life squeezed me, it removed weakness I didn't know I had. Pressure forces you to face yourself without filters. It doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't care about your fucking excuses. It only cares about one thing, whether you break or build. And I refuse to break. Pressure is the tax you pay for wanting more than the average man. You can't ask for a bigger life with a smaller spine. You can't ask for money, status, respect, and freedom without expecting the universe to test whether you're built for it. The system keeps men weak by convincing them pressure is unfair. Life is hard. I'm overwhelmed. It's too much. Bullshit. Life isn't too much. You're just too soft. Pressure isn't punishment. Pressure is permission. permission to rise, permission to refine, permission to evolve into someone capable of carrying a kingdom on his back. Weak men want ease. Strong men want responsibility. And power only flows to the men who prove they can carry it without collapsing into self-pity. The pressure of power doesn't just test your strength. It tests your clarity. You can't hold power if your mind is fogged by distraction, guilt, or confusion. Pressure forces you to strip away bullshit. It forces you to decide what matters, what doesn't, and what you refuse to tolerate. The moment you take control of your time, your standards, your habits, the world pushes back with resistance. Suddenly people accuse you of being arrogant. Suddenly they tell you to relax, slow down, calm down. That's the system fighting your clarity. The pressure always intensifies right before you level up. It wants to see whether you're serious. It wants to see whether your mission is real or just talk. If you fold, you fail. If you persist, power shifts into your hands. Most men lose the moment pressure arrives because they've trained themselves to avoid discomfort. They scroll when they should think. They rest when they should push. They chase pleasure when they should chase clarity. Pressure demands action, and weak men respond with avoidance. They distract themselves, sedate themselves, lie to themselves. They think pressure will go away if they ignore it long enough. It won't. Pressure compounds. Pressure builds. Pressure hunts you until you confront it. Men who run from pressure end up slaves. Slaves to bills, to debt, to jobs, to weak habits, to the opinions of people who don't matter. The man who embraces pressure becomes the opposite. He becomes someone who cannot be owned. Pressure is the true teacher. It teaches you discipline when motivation is gone. It teaches you strategy when instinct isn't enough. It teaches you calm when chaos surrounds you. That's why powerful men move differently. They aren't rushed. They aren't rattled. They aren't emotionally hijacked. They've learned to operate under load. They've learned to stay sharp while carrying weight that would crush the average man. When I climbed out of poverty, it wasn't because life got easier. It was because I got harder. Every setback, every loss, every betrayal increased the pressure until I learned to convert pressure into fuel. Most men see pressure as a burden. I saw it as a signal. You're leveling up. Don't stop now. Pressure demands sacrifice. Another truth weak men run from. You cannot be powerful and comfortable at the same time. You cannot chase every pleasure and still build something worth owning. You cannot avoid discomfort and still stand tall when life punches you. Power requires a trade. You trade laziness for discipline. You trade weakness for strength. You trade distraction for direction. The system teaches men to avoid sacrifice because sacrifice creates power. And powerful men don't obey. They create. They lead. They disrupt. Society needs you tired, numb, and chasing micro pleasures so you never discover the macro power that pressure builds. That's why modern life is filled with escape routes. Porn, junk food, entertainment, scrolling, gossip. They're escape doors from pressure. But every escape door is a cage. The pressure of power also exposes your circle. When you start growing, the people around you react. Some get intimidated. Some get jealous. Some get threatened. Pressure reveals who's solid and who's soft. A weak circle collapses when you start rising. They'll ask you to slow down so they don't feel insecure. They'll ask you to stay the same so they don't have to evolve. They'll try to guilt trip you into shrinking. But the moment you start rejecting comfort and embracing pressure, you naturally filter out people who can't handle your trajectory. Your circle becomes leaner but stronger. Pressure creates brotherhood. Weakness creates crowds. And here's the truth every powerful man eventually learns. Pressure never stops. It only scales. That's the price of power. The more you gain, the more you must carry. The more influence you have, the more responsibility lands on your shoulders. The more you build, the more you must protect. But the beauty is this. Pressure stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like purpose. The weight becomes familiar, you learn to love it. You learn to crave it. Pressure becomes your identity. And once you reach that point, the system can't break you anymore. Because the system's weapons, fear, stress, uncertainty, are just different shapes of pressure. And pressure is your home. Transformation doesn't happen in comfort. It doesn't happen when life is smooth, easy, and predictable. Transformation happens in fire. When you're pushed past your limits, when the world tests you, when everything seems impossible and quitting whispers in your ear like a demon. That's the environment where men evolve. Weak men avoid the fire. They fear heat. They fear pressure. They fear being uncomfortable for even 5 minutes. Strong men walk straight into the flames because they understand something weak men never will. Fire doesn't destroy you. It destroys who you used to be. That's the whole point. Every version of you that is soft, scared, lazy, insecure, that version burns first. And what rises from that fire is someone unrecognizable to the man you were before. Transformation hurts because it kills parts of you that were comfortable. You lose habits, beliefs, and excuses that once made you feel safe. That's why people quit the moment life gets serious. They think the pain means they're doing something wrong. But wrong, it means you're finally doing something right. Growth feels like death at first because weakness dies screaming. Every time you push through something painful, you're burning away a layer of bullshit the system taught you to carry. And the system hates when you transform because a transformed man becomes harder to influence, harder to distract, harder to control. Comfort keeps you predictable. Fire makes you dangerous. I faced the fire long before the world knew my name. Sitting broke in a freezing flat, opening my bank app and seeing numbers so low it felt like a joke, eating meals I wouldn't feed a dog. That was my fire. Fighting in the ring with injuries, doubts, and no guarantee of victory. That was my fire. Watching friends disappear when success wasn't convenient for them. That was my fire. Transformation didn't come from books or speeches or some magical motivation. It came from pain punching me in the mouth again and again until the only thing left standing was discipline. Fire teaches you faster than comfort ever will. Fire doesn't lie. Fire exposes truth. Most men want transformation without sacrifice. They want to become powerful but avoid discomfort. They want success without struggle. They want confidence without confrontation. That's why they never change. You can't transform your life while protecting your weakness. You can't become unbreakable while avoiding shit that scares you. Transformation is earned through repetition inside the fire. Every day you choose the hard path, you sharpen your edge. Every day you say no to your weakness, you craft a new identity. You don't need a miracle. You need to stop being afraid of the fucking heat. You need to stop running at the first sign of discomfort and start running toward it. Fire reveals your standards. Anyone can act disciplined when things are easy. Anyone can pretend to be focused when nothing is going wrong. But the moment pressure hits, the truth comes out. Weak men crumble. Strong men adapt. Weak men panic. Strong men breathe. Weak men look for excuses. Strong men look for solutions. Transformation happens when pressure forces you to rewrite your operating system. You stop negotiating with your emotions. You stop reacting like a victim. You stop depending on comfort. You start following standards that don't bend just because life gets messy. Discipline is forged in fire, not in convenience. The fire also burns away illusions. You stop believing the bullshit society fed you. You stop thinking happiness comes from comfort. You stop thinking success comes from luck. You stop thinking life is supposed to be easy. Once you've walked through the fire 100 times, you stop expecting anything to be handed to you. You start creating. You start thinking for yourself. You start seeing through lies like X-ray vision. Every hardship becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes data. Every loss becomes leverage. That's transformation. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming someone you should have been from the beginning, before the world tried to soften you. Transformation demands isolation at times. You'll lose people who only love the weak version of you. You'll outgrow friends who enjoyed your old habits. You'll intimidate people who can't rise with you. Fire reveals who belongs in your life and who just tolerated you. Weak men fear being alone, so they stay trapped in circles that kill their potential. Strong men embrace solitude because solitude is the workshop of transformation. Alone, you face your demons. Alone, you confront your flaws. Alone, you forge the mindset that separates you from average men. Fire burns away the crowd until only loyalty remains. Fire also teaches you the truth about work. Transformation is not one big moment. It's thousands of small moments where you choose discipline over pleasure. It's waking up early when you don't feel like it. It's training when your body hurts. It's working when you're tired. It's studying when everyone else is relaxing. Strong men understand something weak men never will. Consistency is pain done repeatedly. Transformation isn't a reward. It's a result of suffering deliberately. A result of doing the shit nobody else wants to do. A result of carrying weight nobody else can handle. Fire rewards the men who show up when comfort tells them to stay home. The fire of transformation forces you to redefine your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes. You start seeing yourself as someone who decides. Weak men wait for opportunities. Strong men create opportunities. Weak men hope things get better. Strong men make things better. Weak men rely on motivation. Strong men rely on standards. Identity changes when behavior changes, not the other way around. You don't become disciplined and then act disciplined. You act disciplined and then become disciplined. Fire makes this process unavoidable. The moment you stop running from difficulty, you stop being the version of yourself that failed. Transformation also demands anger. The right kind of anger. Not emotional outbursts, not childish reactions, but the deep, controlled rage of a man who refuses to stay weak. Anger is fuel when used correctly. Anger pushes you to rise when exhaustion wants you to quit. Anger reminds you that you deserve more than mediocrity. Anger keeps you sharp when the world tries to dull you. Weak men suppress their anger because society tells them it's wrong. Strong men redirect their anger into discipline and dominance. Fire teaches you how to weaponize your emotions instead of being owned by them. The most powerful transformation happens when you realize nobody is coming to save you. That moment hits hard. It breaks men who expect rescue, but it liberates men who expect responsibility. Once you accept total ownership of your fate, you stop waiting. You stop begging. You stop complaining. You start moving. You start building. You start fighting for your future with a level of aggression weak men can't comprehend. That realization is fire in its purest form. It burns away entitlement. It burns away excuses. It burns away the victim mindset. You emerge with clarity, painful clarity, that your life is a product of your decisions, not your circumstances. Transformation never ends. Fire returns at every level. More success means more heat. More power means more pressure. More responsibility means more sacrifice. Weak men assume transformation is a one-time event. They think once they level up, life gets easy. Bullshit. The fire only gets hotter. But that's good news. Because once you learn to thrive in it, nothing scares you. Nothing breaks you. Nothing controls you. Fire becomes your element. Discomfort becomes your environment. Hardship becomes your training partner. Pressure becomes your language. Weak men panic in fire. Strong men evolve in it. That's the real transformation. Power isn't earned in comfort. Power is purchased through pain, sacrifice, isolation, rejection, and relentless self-discipline. Everyone wants power, but almost nobody is willing to pay the fucking bill. Weak men think power is given. Strong men know power is taken. And the reason so few men ever taste real power is because the price is brutal. It costs your time, your comfort, your excuses, your distractions, your old identity, and every soft part of you that ever tried to keep you safe. The system hides this truth because it wants you obedient. It wants you broke, predictable, doped up on dopamine, and scared to break patterns. Because the moment you pay the real price of power, you stop being a product of the system. You become a threat to it. Power demands sacrifice long before it gives rewards. You give up comfort first. You give up pleasure first. You give up distractions first. You give up softness first. You give up people who waste your time. You give up habits that weaken you. You give up the fucking fantasy that life will magically lift you out of mediocrity. Power is subtraction before it's addition. The world will call you extreme for this. They'll call you cold, intense, obsessive. But that's because they're terrified of men who can't be sedated. The system doesn't know how to control someone who refuses the distractions it sells. When you stop indulging in the bullshit everyone else is addicted to, you suddenly stand out. And standing out is the beginning of dominance. You pay for power with your mornings. Most men sleep until comfort taps them awake. Powerful men wake up before the world can distract them. The early hours are when you sharpen your discipline, clean your thoughts, and reinforce your commitment. You train, you plan, you work. The world sleeps while you're building the skeleton of your empire. That's the price. You don't get to sleep like the weak when you want to rise above them. But I'm tired. I don't give a fuck. Power doesn't care. Power doesn't negotiate. Power is earned by men who do what needs to be done, whether they're tired, stressed, lonely, angry, or unmotivated. The system has no defense against a man who operates on standards instead of feelings. You pay for power with isolation, not because you want to be alone, but because chasing greatness automatically removes people who don't belong. Your growth will make others uncomfortable. Your standards will offend them. Your discipline will remind them of everything they refuse to become, and their discomfort will turn into distance. Let them go. Real power is forged alone, in silence, in the hours nobody sees. When I was broke in London, I didn't have friends cheering me on. I didn't have support. I had silence, cold floors, and the burning realization that if I didn't build myself, nobody else would. That's the loneliness every powerful man pays. And it's worth every second because once power arrives, loyalty becomes easier to spot and betrayal becomes impossible to miss. You pay for power with rejection. The world will attack you the moment you rise above average. Not because you're wrong, but because you're proof they settled. Weak men hate mirrors and powerful men become mirrors. Every achievement you make reflects their failure to act. So they'll mock you, doubt you, insult you, and pray for your downfall. Let them. You don't get power without enemies. You don't get impact without opposition. When I rose, I was banned, censored, criticized, misquoted, and demonized. But that was the final confirmation that I was on the right path. You know you're becoming powerful when the system starts to get nervous. You pay for power with pain, physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain. You sacrifice comfort to build strength. You sacrifice pleasure to build discipline. You sacrifice time to build wealth. You sacrifice ease to build skill. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the receipt. It proves you're paying the price. Weak men run from pain because they think it's punishment. Strong men embrace pain because they know it's transformation. Every difficult workout, every long night, every setback, every humiliation adds another layer to your character. Power is built from scars more than successes. Scars tell the story of a man who didn't fold. Scars tell the world you paid in full. You pay for power with responsibility. When you rise, you can no longer blame others. You can no longer complain. You can no longer point fingers. Power demands total ownership, not of circumstances, but of reactions. Weak men crumble when life punches them. Powerful men adjust, adapt, and strike back harder. Responsibility is heavy, and that's why so few carry it. The system encourages victimhood because victims don't fight back. Victims don't lead. Victims don't build. Victims obey. Responsibility breaks the chains of victimhood. The moment you take full ownership of your life, no excuses, no blaming, no running, you step into a level of power the system can't take from you. You pay for power with discipline. Discipline is the tax you pay daily. It's not a one-time purchase. It's rent that's due every morning. Power belongs to men who show up whether conditions are perfect or not. It belongs to men who keep promises to themselves even when nobody's watching. It belongs to men whose habits are stronger than their moods. Discipline is the currency of self-respect. You can't feel powerful when you consistently break agreements with yourself. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you deposit confidence into your identity. Eventually, you become a man who doesn't fear the world because you don't fear yourself. You pay for power by killing the old you, the version of you that was lazy, scared, emotional, undisciplined, and dependent cannot come on the journey. Transformation requires execution. Not everyone deserves to meet the upgraded version of you, not even the man you used to be. Shedding your old self hurts, but it's necessary. Power is incompatible with softness. Power is incompatible with excuses. Power is incompatible with fear-driven habits. The old you is the greatest enemy you'll ever face. Once you bury him, the world stops being intimidating because you already killed the biggest threat. You pay for power by embracing pressure. Pressure is the test that separates pretenders from contenders. Weak men collapse under pressure because they've spent their lives avoiding it. Strong men rise because pressure is their natural environment. Pressure forces clarity. Pressure forces adaptation. Pressure forces growth. That's why the system keeps men soft. It wants you to fear pressure. But when you start viewing pressure as a privilege instead of a punishment, you become unstoppable. Power expands under weight. If you want more power, accept more pressure. You pay for power with endurance, not a week of effort, not a month of improvement. Years of rejection, years of discipline, years of sacrifice, years of consistency. Power isn't built overnight. It's built through relentless repetition. Weak men quit when the timeline gets uncomfortable. Strong men understand the timeline doesn't matter. The mission matters. The process matters. The identity matters. The system sells instant gratification because instant gratification kills long-term ambition. But a man who has endurance becomes untouchable. The world can't break someone who refuses to stop. And finally, you pay for power by understanding that freedom itself is pain. Freedom means accountability. Freedom means discipline. Freedom means pressure. Freedom means sacrifice. Freedom means carrying weight instead of escaping it. Weak men dream of freedom because they think it means ease. Powerful men live freedom because they accept the pain that comes with it. And that's why powerful men are rare. Freedom and pain are the same currency. You cannot have one without the other. So here's the truth with no sugarcoating, no softness, no compromise. Power belongs to the men who are willing to suffer for it. Freedom belongs to the men who refuse the comfort designed to enslave them. And the future belongs to the men who pay the price that weak men fear. You want power? Then bleed for it, burn for it, break for it, rise for it. Because in the end, the world doesn't give power. It bows to the men who take it.